We're live.
Yes.
Good morning. All right.
All right. So, an extremely light topic and an extremely heavy one. And they're both about fiction writers.
Let's do this. Ticky tick, Ricky tick. Let's get this done.
Yes.
Oh, we forgot to fade. And,
well, we're here now.
there you go.
Yeah. No fade required. None. It helps, though.
It does.
All right. So, how you doing?
Not too shabby. Not too shabby tall.
I know you've already addressed one of these topics, but man, as I was going down the rabbit hole on it, I had a thing hit me really hard, and it was hilarious. And I figured it was worth revisiting because, long story short, a headline up front, I feel as though that this whole clause about AI not being allowed to edit their scripts,
So
the WGA would have you believe, well, we're just throwing that in, like just in case.
yeah, no, that's not just in case. So ChatGPT is far from perfect. It is also far from the only AI chat machine out there.
Mm-hmm.
There are several available, and my dude, sit down and play with ChatGPT sometime. There's a lot of fun to be had there. I've done a couple of shows on it, and one of the things that I've done a lot of with those shows is talking about the wokeness, how ChatGPT is just like by default hyper far left wokey garbage. But ChatGPT, you can absolutely sit down and type, hey ChatGPT, write me a script for a 2-hour film about Batman chasing fat chicks through down the beach. And it'll do it. It'll knock you out 120 pages with dialogue and action and everything. Now, it'd be weird.
Scene, exterior. We fade in to Lizzo attempting to jog.
But yeah, the AI, honestly, a lot of people who are professional writers right now that do not write either fiction or like academic level writing, their job is going to be to manage an AI writer rather than to write themselves. And the reason I say fiction, and only certain types of fiction and certain levels of fiction and certain academic work. So with the academic work, if you're doing the sort of academia where you have to physically go out into the field and dig up old people, or you have to go put your hands on new technology and then write a personal opinion about it, the AI can do it. The AI can produce the writing that you require after you've done that work, but it won't be you writing it. So the only kind of dividing line there, and right now it's a bright line, but it will not always be. That line is going to get softer and more diffuse over time. But right now, the best you can hope for is, okay, a person reading this, it doesn't pass the Turing test, right? If a person wrote it, it's hard to even point at the exact details that draw the bright line distinction and make it so that as a human being reading a document, you can tell whether or not it was written by a person. There's kind of a feeling to almost a sixth sense about that. The same thing with certain categories and qualities of fiction work. If you're somebody who has a loyal fan base and a prolific bibliography, then there's just some ephemeral quality to your personal style that is still very difficult for an AI to replicate directly. That is becoming less true with the visual stuff like Midjourney or Leonardo or any of those that are producing images. You can type up, I want to see an image of the closing scene from Snakes on a Plane as imagined by Norman Rockwell, and buddy, that's what you'll get. It might have 6 fingers on one of the hands, but it'll be damn close to Norman Rockwell painting Samuel L. Jackson strangling an anaconda.
Right. So there's a couple of layers to this. The first layer is and let's be clear, these people that are going on strike, they're not coal miners who have a dangerous job. Okay?
Learn to weld, noob.
That's right, exactly. We are talking about people that get paid. I looked it up. Like their average salary is like $288,000. Yeah. Bruh, I've never made $280,000 over a 2-year period, much less a 1. Okay, and they're comfortable and they get to meet all these people. So all this stuff. These are the people that are striking now. What they've done is the number of movie script writers hasn't really increased, but the television script writers have exploded, of course, because of streaming services.
Exactly.
And now streaming services are beginning to collapse because all you writers, you basically could do whatever you wanted. And you started out by giving us Daredevil, which was excellent. And I would argue Jessica Jones, which was excellent. And then somehow you transitioned over into giving us Velma, right? So this is your fault. You could have done whatever you wanted, and you decided to give us garbage. And now your entire house of cards is about to collapse. So there's that. But then getting specifically back.
You went from giving us Daredevil and Jessica Jones to this.
Right. Well, the Cleopatra movie that's coming out where basically, I feel like Cleopatra was black, so that's the point of
and
this.
They're literally getting sued by Egypt.
Yes. Exactly. And so, well, how come Egypt never sued the makers of any of the other movies based on Egypt? Well, because nobody ever claimed those were documentaries, guys.
Right.
The Mummy was obviously fiction. But there's that. They've ruined it themselves. Now everything is collapsing. And here's the thing. All the stuff with AI is not anybody's first choice. Like, we'll get to the point where AI could write a score for a Star Wars movie. But you don't want AI to do that. You want John Williams to do it, because John Williams has that ephemeral quality of which you speak. And here's the thing. They've given away the game. And I'm going to say this, and I bet you're going to know exactly what I mean. No owner of a McDonald's wants to install one of those kiosks. He just gets to a certain point where, you know what? This kiosk is easier,
cheaper,
It doesn't call out. It doesn't accuse me of racism or sexism.
I don't even have to write the damn thing on the schedule.
That's right. That's right. I don't ever have an HR issue with a kiosk. If something's wrong, I call the 1-800 number on my poster board in the office, and a guy whose job it is says, I will be there in less than 4 hours because that's what they pay me to do. And they come out and they fix my kiosk, and I keep selling my customers Big Macs. That is what these people, and I guarantee you, like the Dan O'Bannons of the world, wrote the Alien script. Okay.
Gotcha.
The Dan O'Bannons of the world, they're not worried about being replaced by AI.
No.
But the writers on Velma? Dude, the writing on Velma was so bad, I already
on Velma
thought
are
it
worried
was...
about being replaced by a Mr. Coffee.
Right.
And they should be.
And they should be. So that's...
Not they should be worried. That too. They should be replaced with a Mr. Coffee.
So that's what's going on. I actually think that all the stuff about, guaranteeing a minimum number of days, like, if you've actually chewed into the terms, there's some bizarre stuff here. Like, they'll get hired for a 2-week project, but they're going to demand 12 weeks of pay, even though it's a 2-week project.
Right.
And minimum sized writers' rooms and all of that. But no, I'm telling you, one of the main things, if not the thing, and they're hiding it inside all the other stuff, is the AI, because they're so terrible. Like, do you really need a script writer for a Fast and the Furious movie?
There's a lot of D.I.E in this too. A lot of these guys are die cultists, and they're part of what they're striking for is, well, we want you to, basically, we're striking because we want our contracts to say that you will actively discriminate against straight white men.
No, cis, Chris, cis.
You sound like a cis when you say it like that.
I'm just trying to make the point.
I gotcha. But yeah, one of the elements of the strike is we want more rules that actively discriminate against straight white men. And that's that is a thing in Hollywood more than anywhere else. I mean, it's a thing everywhere in the United States now, but more so in Hollywood than any other place there is. Now, Cameron, what you were talking about with the kiosk, that's a great example, because your assertion is in part that the franchisee that owns the Mickey D's doesn't want to replace his employees with the kiosk. And, you know, at an individual store, individual level, that's going to be true in a lot of places. I've got people that depend on me. I love my employees. They do good work for me. I take care of them and their families by compensating them with a fair wage for the work that they do. And then you come up on the sucker line, right? Eventually, so many people are collecting welfare from the state that working for a living and paying taxes just makes you a sucker. Now, of course, once we all realize where the sucker line hits us and nobody's working and paying taxes anymore,
Atlas shrugs.
then everybody's a sucker. Right? But there is the sucker line. And there comes a point where running a business and avoiding the automation that makes your business cheaper, more efficient to run, because you want to keep your employees, because you want to make sure that they can put food on the tables. You want to keep that personal touch. You want your customers to interact with a human being instead of a black mirror, right? Eventually, it gets to a point where you're the last guy doing it right, and doing the right thing is cutting your own throat. You're being outcompeted by the businesses that don't do the right thing. And that's a very difficult place to live.
If you're the only business doing the right thing, and Hollywood has even given us some really good examples of this.
Yes. I'm glad you're going down this road. Yes.
I mean, like, who would have thought that Tom Cruise could have come in 30 years later to make a sequel to Top Gun, and it would be good?
Who'd have thought Tom Cruise could come out and do something right?
Right? And look, I broke my no Tom Cruise rule to watch Maverick. Like, I haven't seen any of the Mission Impossible movies because I don't want to support his Scientology, and he's kind of the biggest, loudest face for that. But more recently, the Mario movie. The Mario movie, objectively speaking, as I understand it, is not really that good. There's not a lot that clever going on there. But do you want to take the family to go see a movie and turn your brain off for 2 hours and have a few chuckles? Well, there you go. You go see the Mario movie.
It was
you
like when Speed Racer came out, John Goodman as the old man, right? And it had B in it, the Korean pop star. That was okay. What do you know what you're here for? Yes, I'm here to have my eyes stapled open under, and you're just going to turn on the blue and red slushy machine.
Well, but the point is, you give the customer what they want. There are customers out there that do want the handcrafted experience. They'd rather pay some, housewife $80 for one sweater than to go to Walmart and get 2 for $25.
Right.
Right? They would. That's their choice.
You're not going to get a sweater out of a housewife for $80. You better not.
Look, the point is...
But your point is well made. No, I got you.
Look, these writers know they can't compete in that sphere. Ironically, we refer to them as NPCs, and they're literally about to get out NPC'd by an actual NPC that built its NPC algorithm based on their NPC bullshit. Like, the levels of schadenfreude and irony here. Like, you guys dumped all this garbage and bullshit onto the market. ChatGPT went, I'm just a stupid fucking robot, so if this is the standard, okay.
Now, Steve, that's interesting, and yes. Oh, God, Steve says, interesting times. It's simultaneously true that some jobs aren't worth what the lefties want to work them. And also, the cost of living under this inflation means they won't be living well anyway. That's true. And okay. Get your head around this. Remember the whole Fight for 15 movement?
Well, yeah, right? They've already upped it.
And of course.
They're already talking about 18 now.
Yeah, no, guys, if you want to make a good wage, go and learn how to do a job.
And don't suck.
And
show
don't
up on time and don't suck. And those two things.
That shit's not hard. And if you do suck at it, go do something else. Because if you're not good at anything, there's a lot of jobs out there that pay shit where you can learn a skill that doesn't pay shit. It pays well, right? Now, one of the issues that we tried to make these fucking people understand during the whole Fight for 15 thing was, listen, son, if it cost $5 more an hour for you to fry my potatoes, that means that my potatoes cost more. If you get $15 an hour instead of $10, which is already too much for that job, then you have just increased the price of everything that this business produces by plus 50%. That means that the $15 an hour you're suddenly making, especially if that change is pressed down by federal authority simultaneously across all industries, which is what they were demanding, then the result is your pay did not increase at all if you're lucky enough that the inflation stopped when it caught up to the buying power of your new wage rate. Because in order to increase your wage, that money doesn't come from nowhere. Where it comes from is the distribution of the end product that you produce. And that product has a cost. So as soon as you increase the cost of labor by 50%, then your eggs are $6 a dozen.
And literally just a few years ago, I wouldn't pay more than $2 for a dozen of eggs.
Right. If Kroger had them for $2, I'd go to Aldi and get them for $1.27.
Yes, exactly. So it's $7.50. Do we even want to touch the other thing?
Oh, God.
Because I mean, because I feel like I could punch it just real.
Let's punch it real quick.
So
wait. Morning, babe. Love you. Oh, and there's one more. Okay, so we didn't say hi to people this morning, and I'm sorry, guys. We've been skipping the good mornings in the morning. I want to get straight into the material now because I believe, and I'm starting to see some info to support that getting straight into the topic is increasing some of our viewership and subscribership numbers. So please like, share, subscribe, and all that. But real quick, I see Pit Danny had first blood this morning. I've got both Steves in the chat, Your Majesty, and my mother is here. Love you, Ma. I see Danny. Good morning, sunshine. Matt Parks, my favorite Ninja Turtle, kicking ass and taking names. Oh! And and I think I hit all the regulars. There's Dave Bowen.
There was a Bubbles.
Bubbles is with us this morning. Good morning, sunshine. And I see Sean Kimball's joined us this morning, and I'm glad to see you watching the show. And brother, I'd love to see you join us more often. I know you're busy in the morning. Sean Kimball actually was responsible for one of my first kind of like bullshit little internet celebrity moments. I ran into him at a restaurant a couple years ago, and he went to introduce me to somebody who was sitting at the table, and it happened to be DJ Scotty, and this was when I first met DJ Scotty, and Scotty cut him off. He said, "I know who this is. This is the Brushfire Mind guy."
Nice.
So good to see you in here this morning, and and GCM is here. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip you, Ben. I promise. So let's get to this last piece. I don't even have an article pulled up for it because we're just going to touch it real quick.
Okay, so
Donald Trump was not convicted.
That's right. Donald Trump was not convicted of sexual assault. There are no convictions in civil cases. What there are in civil cases are much lower standards to have a judgment rule in your favor. And because of the fact that there are much lower standards to rule in your favor, there's a much higher success rate upon appeal. And how much do you want to bet that Donald Trump is going to appeal this? Look, we're talking about a 30-year-old rape charge, okay? 30-year-old rape charge that only came up because New
York... Or maybe
York...
20 or maybe 40. She doesn't know what year it happened.
She just knows it was in the 90s. We're going to go with 30. It's a nice round even number. But yeah, she's not entirely sure of the details for the... and yes, there is appeal for civil judgments.
Yes.
She's not entirely sure of the details, but she's sure that Donald Trump raped her one time in a dressing room. And so you go through this whole bizarre thing where New York passes a law that says, hey, everybody that ever had a rape claim or whatever, we're going to give you 1 year here in the state of New York to magically bring it all back out, even if it's outside of the statute of limitations, because #PoundMeToo, right? Okay. So this woman pops up and says, Donald Trump raped me. Oh my God. In a department store, right? In a dressing room. I'm sure it was in a department store. I'm sure it was in a dressing room, but I'm not entirely sure that, I'm not entirely sure of the day or the time or the whatever. Now, I myself have never been raped. I suspect it's pretty easy to remember the details of such an occurrence, unless, of course, you're so PTSD'd by it, you've deliberately, trauma blocked all of the information. Yeah, so then they change the law. They bring him up on civil charges, not on criminal charges. They give Trump's lawyers limited access to the jury, right? And then they go through all this, and what do? They play the Access Hollywood tape. They bring in women to testify as experts that aren't actually directly accusing Donald Trump of sexual assault themselves, right? And then all that, the jury does bring back a judgment against Donald Trump. But you know, this curious thing about the judgment, they totally say Donald Trump has to pay her millions of dollars for defaming her character. You know what they didn't say? What they do not say. Chris, what did they not say?
They did not say in any way that there's any legitimacy, credibility, or veracity to her claims. Instead, what has happened is this woman who claims that Donald Trump sexually assaulted or raped her
Too many words.
sometime in the 90s.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Do you want me to get done and shut up?
Yes.
Okay. Sometime in the 90s, with the details that she can't remember are all those details which can be checked and verified to prove the veracity or falsity of the case. And Donald Trump stated that plainly. The things she can't remember, after she said rape is sexy, and some people and some women are into that. That's a quote from the alleged, right? After she said all that, she won't say or confirm any of the details which could prove or disprove her case, because she's a cheat, she's a liar, she's basically, this is a hoax. That's essentially what Donald Trump says. She's a cheat, she's a liar, this is a hoax. What the judgment has been found against him, civil case, no conviction, no indictment, right? There's nothing that says he committed a crime. They said, because you called her a liar, you have to pay her $5 million. I think it's $5 million. Is that right?
Well, it's a little more. It's a little more complex than that.
They've entered a judgment against him for defamation over the statements he made, saying that she's a liar. And like Steve pointed out, her false accusation of rape isn't defamation, but Trump calling out her lying about rape is. That right there. There's your two-tier justice system. Guaranteed 100%. And I don't have to assume this from analysis of news generally. I can point to historical cases of same, Juanita Broaddrick and Bill Clinton. If the shoe were on the other foot, it would be the Democrat politician that was believed, and not the accuser.
So just to be clear, the whole rape thing, no, that's the one thing. Basically, it was a split judgment. About half of the $5 million was for the defamation of character, and about half of the $5 million was for sexual assault. And this is why that Access Hollywood thing comes into play, because he said, "Oh, well, when you're rich and famous, you just start kissing women and grab them by the pussy and all the other stuff." We know what he said. So the thing is, her statement needed to be all or nothing. Donald Trump sexually assaulted me, and this culminated in rape. So they believe that he accosted her in a dressing room. They believe that he sexually assaulted her in a dressing room, but they don't believe that he actually raped her in a dressing room, which is really weird, man. It would honestly be less weird if it was all $5 million for lying. But the fact that they parsed through and said he's kind of a sexual predator over here, but definitely not a sexual predator over there.
Right.
Yeah. No.
And Fee points out, wait, could he even go to department stores without people recognizing him? Like for the past several decades? That's actually part of the issue, babe, is that she won't give details. She won't even narrow it down to a year, right? Because if she were to say it happened on this date, all Donald Trump has to do is say, "Oh, well, here's my calendar."
It happened.
I wasn't even in the country that day.
Yeah, It happened the first week of December of '93.
Right.
I can't remember exactly which, but I know it was
And then suddenly it's not very difficult to bust out the calendar and say, okay, you say it happened in this department store the second week of December. Let's see. I was in Germany,
Tahiti,
skiing, or Tahiti, or Hawaii, or whatever. Or I was, looks like I was in front of a camera being watched by millions of people firing assholes at the time you say I did this. That's a big chunk of the crux of the case generally, is she won't provide even a year that it occurred. And that's, frankly, what she's engaged in is spoliation. She's essentially denying exculpatory evidence which exists. She's actively blocking. She's conducting obstruction of justice.
Yeah, there's more that I would like to say.
But shit to do, places to go.
But I will just say this real quick. This has now flipped my opinion. Donald Trump is going to get charged by Fani Willis. There's momentum building. That's why these things are being done in the order they're being done in. Donald Trump is going to get charged in Fulton County. I'm calling it. I hope to shit I am wrong.
You're not wrong, because the fact of the matter is this.
But
we are no
momentum.
longer a nation of laws. We are a nation of an elite ruling hegemony that wears the facade of the law as a mask to hide its desperate, grotesque corruption. If you become the persona non grata, then it's just a matter of time until the wheels of the horde grind you down. That is the strategy of the left. They are the Zerg. Everything they touch turns to cancer and grows and spreads to expand the cancer. They cannot live off of the cancer. They cannot live away from the cancer patch for long. And so wherever they go, once they leave the patch of the cancer, once they step outside of the infected neighborhood, they have to infect the new place. They have to spread the creep so that the Zerg rush can continue. I know that's a lot of reference there. That might be worth a show by itself.
Give Alex a badge. That's funny.
Fair enough. Okay, y'all be safe out there, guys. We love you, and we've got to go to work. See you tomorrow.